Hey guys, good morning. Creator Mom, happy Friday. In today's video, I want to talk about the pressure that's kind of put on the homeschooling community for homeschooling kids to be phenomenal and amazing and be involved in all these things. Because I think that beneath the surface, there is a pressure that parents feel to make sure that their homeschooling student or unschooler just looks so phenomenal and so involved in things so that other people could be like, oh wow, okay, so phew, I guess they're kind of normal. They kind of mm, you know, they're kind of doing what kids in school do in a sense, being involved in activities and classes and things like that. I really just noticed this, especially in the unschool community too, because yeah, like I said, it's we feel like we have to prove how amazing our kids are and that they're normal or just brilliant, as brilliant as somebody who would go to public school, see what my kid is doing, they're involved and they're doing so much stuff. So anyways, that's kind of the feel that I got. It's even even more pressure than having your kid just go to public school because yeah, public school, they're not going to be questioned really. They're following, the kind of the majority, the path of the majority. But with unschooling, you might get an extra spotlight put on you, so you have to make sure your kid is extra brilliant. So the pressure is on. So I want to read a little bit from Pam Lorrichia's book called Life Through the Lens of Unschooling, A Living Joyfully Companion, unschooling book number 3. So anyway, she talks about deschooling. And she talks about how her kids went to public school for a bit. So when they started this journey into unschooling, she talks about her deschooling process and about how she was kind of drawn to maybe having her kids keep continuously offering her kids cool library classes and just just community programs or whatever, right? Get your kids involved in outside extracurricular activities. So but what is the real underlying agenda behind that? There is a fear that your kids aren't being involved enough or being exposed to enough stuff, and also that as a parent, if your kid gets involved in these other things, it's you feel a level of safety. Okay, phew, I have something to tell people that my kid is doing outside of the home, so I feel safe now. So anyways, she says, my kids were not remotely interested in anything that looked like school, so there were no extracurricular activities, no community recreational classes. They had so much lost time with their interest to make up for. And when they were interested in something, their preferences were to dig into it themselves. Swimming classes? No thanks. Workshops at the local science center? Nope. Summer library program? Nah. I was a bit flummoxed or flummoxed. I don't know how you pronounce that word. What should I do now? The answer was, which I know now because hindsight is 2020 and all that, de-school some more. Sure, those activities may be fun for many kids, but my kids were happily busy with their own stuff. On the bright side, I didn't push, I just offered and observed. And eventually I came to realize what I was doing. I was reaching for learning situations that, although they weren't school, they looked a lot like school because that was all I really knew. Unsurprisingly, my kids de-schooled much faster than I did, so it was really helpful to my process to watch them in action. I joined them in their activities, played games with them, read to them, watched TV and movies with them, went to local parks with them, in short, had fun with them. That was how I began to see that there were so many ways to learn things beyond the teacher-student paradigm. It was and is beautiful. If they had taken up my offers on classes, or if I had insisted, we all would have taken much longer to discover that learning surrounds us every day and so does our natural ability to pursue it. classes would have continued to be valued as a way of learning above other options. In other words, deschooling would have taken even longer. I think that's a crucial and challenging step in the deschooling process. Classes are so highly valued in our society that it can be an easy way for us, especially at first, to justify the success of our homeschooling adventure to others as well as ourselves. Oh, Johnny is going to weekly swimming classes. He just finished a robot building workshop at the Science Center and is going to the overnight program at the zoo next week and is signed up for hockey this winter. Like, right? Doesn't that sound so brilliant? Like, wow, look at all the things your kid is doing. That rollicking list might calm down Aunt Sally for the time being, but really it clutters your vision and makes the real learning that happens through everyday learning harder to see. Because we're valuing these classes and activities above like other things, and we're like essentially kind of end up devaluing the things that our children like really are interested or doing at home or whatever, the learning that is taking place like every single day. What I did, and like I've been seeing a lot of learning in my children, and to reinforce this to my nervous system, because there's like a lot of nervous system involvement here. Like if you are a parent you went through the public school system, like your whole family did, like that was just the normal way. I mean, God, you don't realize how deep those tracks go in your nervous system. So when you're doing something that's not that conventional way, there could be a lot of like fear and stuff involved, but you have to push past that fear or acknowledge that fear, process that fear, keep reading and educating yourself on the topic so that what you're reading can start to replace and like reprogram what's in your nervous system. And what I did also was got notebooks like for each of my kids so that I can write down every time I see something, like some type of learning happening, like, which is like all the time, really. Like you literally can't write every single thing down because it's happening like rapidly, like all the time. But like when I see like some major things that I recognize, like, oh, okay, this is what the unschooling people like are talking about right there. That's it. I write it down so that I can, for myself, acknowledge in my own nervous system, my own body, see like learnings taking place. I'm trying to say something else. It just helps to reinforce. That's what I'm saying. It helps to reinforce what I'm reading and what I'm learning, which is good because getting on a good cycle in the right direction. So anyways, yeah, if you're going into homeschooling or looking into unschooling, I recommend Pam Lorrichia. Her podcast is called the Living Joyfully Podcast. And then, and the other YouTube channel is Unschooling Mom to Mom, or you can Google that, Unschooling Mom to Mom. She has really good information and a really good podcast as well. All right, everyone, have a wonderful Friday.